Hi, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday Tips. I'm Marin Smith from Grow Schools, and I'm excited to have you all here today. As usual, we're here Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern for 10 minutes discussing the biggest challenges facing school leaders. And I'm joined today by Ashley, who is our VP of Marketing and heads up our enrollment marketing department at Grow Schools. Thanks for being here, Ashley.
Hey, Marin. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Ashley works directly with schools across the country and has a lot of firsthand experience with strategies that are most effective at keeping families engaged. And today we're diving into maintaining an engaging social media presence over summer break. And Ashley, as we know, no school runs their social media exactly the same way. Some schools have, a one-person communication team. Some have a dedicated staff. But my hope is, regardless of the situation, we can shed some light on practical strategies to help schools with their online presence over the summer, even when classes aren't in session and staff might be on vacation or away. So that kind of sets up my first question for you, which is, can you talk about why it's super important that schools avoid just going dark completely on social media over summer? And then sort of coming off of that, what's the ideal posting frequency during the summer months? And is that different than during the school year? Can you kind of talk about that in general first?
Yeah, I think it's okay to have a little bit of a reduced posting cadence over the summer. Parents, students, staff, they tend to be less active on school social media. We often see like the last week of June, first week of July, around the 4th of July, be really dead on social media. So I think it's okay to reduce that cadence. But yeah, you don't want to go completely dark, especially if you've put a lot of work into having consistent posting frequency throughout the year. You want to maintain that a little bit so people are still kind of interested and used to looking for your content. So usually I think, depending on how frequently you've been posting throughout the year, just reducing that slightly. So if you're posting 3 times a week or 4 times a week, you could drop that down to 1 or 2 times a week, but don't go completely dark. I think 1 to 3 times per week tends to work pretty well on Facebook and Instagram. And you can go less frequent on, channels like YouTube.
Okay. Yeah. And even with that reduced frequency, I know something that's probably on school leaders' minds who are listening is it still might be a struggle to maintain even that reduced frequency because, staff is either off completely for the summer, there's vacation schedules, and there's a lot of other things to be prioritizing during the summer, not to mention the priority of summer break as a thing that's important. Do you have any advice for schools with limited resources or staff availability during the summer when it comes to social media?
Yeah, it might sound kind of easier said than done, but whatever you can schedule and plan ahead for, that can really help you during that period. So even if you can just schedule like 1 post a week through, there's tools like just built right into Facebook for scheduling your Facebook and Instagram posts using Meta Business Suite. And then there's other third-party tools that you can use for scheduling. So if you can batch a few posts out before summer break starts, that could really help you. If you plan a content calendar ahead of time with some key themes, that can help when you're in the moment, not sure what to post, because then you can just kind of know what you want to do. And then reusing existing content. Facebook and Instagram give you some great insights. So take a look back at what the most engaging posts were from last year and think about how you might repurpose those by, changing up the caption or swapping out a photo on a popular post. And then think about, doing some throwback or highlight posts from the previous year. It's totally okay. And it's good to even, share kind of some of the highlights and activities from the prior school year.
Yeah. I love that idea of repurposing content and also that scheduling, at least, for me as somebody who runs a social media account for Grow Schools, the idea that you can schedule a post and it just washes over as like, okay, set it and forget it. That post is going to go out and I'll get to see it. I'll get to see it, pop up on my feed. Could be really take off a lot of stress of having to be in the moment posting.
Yeah. Yeah, like repurpose, you could make a really easy kind of quote graphic just by pulling from, if you did a student story or an interview with a teacher, you could, or an alumni during the year, just grab one quote from that and turn that into, an image that you can reshare.
Yeah. So it does take, being able to go back, and I like that it's data informed, because you said, take a look at what are the things that performed best. And that's that idea of optimizing, going in and saying, okay, how could I get a different angle here, or pull something different out of this thing that we did previously? Or, I mean, even just like a reboot at a different time of year, something might feel different or look different depending on, what's going on in the school calendar. So that makes total sense.
Yeah, totally. I mean, as social media managers, we are often looking at our Facebook page and we're seeing all the posts in a row. But for most people, if you think about how you engage with pages, school pages or otherwise that you follow on social media, you're probably seeing most of their content in your feed. And it's mixed in with all kinds of other posts. You might take a look at their profiles, but you're probably not combing through it and you're not staring at it the way that we are when we're managing it. So, I wouldn't worry too much about, oh, I've already posted this. If it was a ways back, they probably, people may have forgot, or you might be reaching entirely different people this time around.
Sure. Yeah. So no one's following along at home as closely as you are, the person who's running the account. That makes total sense. Yeah. And so as far as what to post, you gave some good examples just then about how to repurpose, whether it's a profile of a teacher or, something to do with school when it's actually in session. Another idea is to use summer to highlight school values and culture, because, school leaders are going to also be pivoting to think about some of those last minute enrollments coming into fall. Do you have any ideas of those types of posts and what those might look or feel like?
Yeah, I mean, highlighting your people, definitely. Often administrators are some of the people that are working through the summer. So posting like a message from the principal, things like that. I mean, we tend to see when we look at website traffic that people really visit the principal's page and search on Google for the principal's name or the executive director's name. So we can kind of assume that they're interested in that kind of content and knowing who the leadership is. So if your leadership are working during the summer, it's a really great time to maybe post a quick video or a little update or message on social media. Sharing kind of spotlight stories of alumni, where are they now, types of stories. And then if you do have kids in the classroom, if you've got summer learning or engagement happening, any kind of like summer camps or summer programs, definitely highlighting that. And then I would also say schools should be doing events and open houses and new student orientation and things like that throughout the summer. So that's another opportunity to have things to post about, both trying to drive people to come to your events and also sharing kind of recaps and things like that after the fact.
Yeah, I love the idea of profiling a school leader too, given that it's probably more difficult to do that in many situations during the school year because they're so busy with all the aspects of running a school. So it's really getting creative, thinking about, okay, what are the things that we could do that actually would be easier to achieve in the summer when school isn't in session, when, there aren't kids in the halls and all of that stuff. That makes total sense. So those are some great recommendations. Lastly, I'll just ask you, as I mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, you get to work directly with schools. You see a lot of these types of posts, in real time, being created, and get to see how successful they are. Can you share any successful summer social media campaigns that you've seen working directly with schools?
Yeah, I think that the school, one that comes to mind is the School of Arts and Enterprise, or the SAE in Southern California. They've done a great job. Again, they're doing events and open houses and things like that all throughout the summer. So they have things like that to post about. But then they were also doing, in May and June, graduation and performance highlights, sharing student stories that they'd put together earlier in the year, reminders about back to school. We published a really timely back to school blog post for them that we also pushed out on social media, and then things like awards and distinctions that were happening. So they were posting all of that kind of content throughout the summer and did a really excellent job with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great. Well, we are right at the 10-minute mark. Look at us. That's a perfect amount of time for these 10-minute conversations. So I want to thank you for all these great tips, Ashley. And I think it's timely as we approach summer and schools are really, focusing also on those, as I said, those fall enrollment numbers. So we've got so many more enrollment tips from Ashley and from her whole team. If you want to check out our library of resources at growschools.com, but want to thank everybody for watching and Ashley again for being here, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Marin.
Thanks.